look, I've got the gearbox on the stand here. It's quite solid. It gives us the option now of doing a full rotation either way, so hopefully I can get you in there where you need to be. I don't know if we can do a full 360 rotation. We might pull these out just in case. I've got a plastic pot down here that we've cut in half, a 20 litre pot to catch all the bits and pieces. Now we're going to have to keep an eye on these little detents as we go around. So and they'll probably fall out now, I would say. Oh yes, one full rotation. Beautiful. That's what we need. It's nice to turn, it's not out of balance at all, and it's not slopping around at all. So that's a pretty good thing. Alright, what I usually do with gearboxes, I'll bring him around here so you can see. Is we pull the selector rails. Now this fella here, that's your high-low, and this fella here is your 1, 2, 3 reverse. Now when you pull the lever across and up into reverse, because it's on a ball, that actually comes down and across this way. So reverse is this way, first's up there, we'd have second would be down here, and reverse over there. Oh, sorry, third over there. So what we do now is just cut the safety wires. There's a knack to tying wires, like for this sort of job. There's the right way and there's the wrong way. As with everything, I suppose. Out and around there. We might see if we can, my head's probably in the road there. There we go. Now a little shifter. This is up on about 45 degrees, you can see, just to show you what's going on. And the shed's creaking again. Lovely to build a studio to do all this, isn't it? Well, one thing stopping me is I'm way too poor for that. Yeah. Okay, we'll take all these out and pop them in the pot. You don't have to do all this just to do a front or rear seal. That one's just a bit tight for fingers yet. Okay. I finally found a spanner with less bolt that will probably do the job a bit better. Oh, that screw just doesn't quite want to come out of there. Now it does, out onto the floor. Right, so we've undone those. We'll go around and pick that up. Yep, you can see that. Okay, now this bar here and this little fella here, they're lockouts, and they just stop the selector shafts travelling too far. We'll go into them a little bit later. You'll see a flat on this shaft here. I might actually be able to wind him down a little bit. After all the rubbish in the back end for the hydraulic pump, it's going to be interesting to see what we have here. Now that fellow there, you see, and what that does is it sits in, pretend this housing isn't there, it sits in. How can I show you that? Hang on. Oh, bloody thing. It sits in between these two shafts here, and so one shaft can move at a time, but if the other one tries to move, it can't because it's captive. Then when you're in neutral and you move the other shaft, well, it pops it across back. So in neutral you can move either one. If we select one, it runs up on the side here and that puts it into the groove on the other side, and that locks that one into place. So it does an important job. And then when I pull these out, I always slide them straight back on, so you're not fiddling around trying to work out what goes where. Let's see if I can get that little detent. And once it's in gear, we have the little spring detents up the top, so that locks it in neutral, and this would be second and third. But yeah, just my habit, keep them all together. Straight back on. You could put the bolts back in, you know, the little set screws that we took out to start with. And your high-low, no need to take the back fork off. We'll just put him back as well. Oh, dear me. Now this yoke here, this just works either on the back housing, on the back, if I can line that up again. There we go. Works out on the back, or on the back it holds a fixed one, I believe. I'll have to look into this again. But this here is your planetary for your high-low. So we might hop around, lift that up so we can see it better. Yep, you can see that. 9/16 spanner fits these. There'll be a 3/8 UNC bolt. I don't know if this has ever been out before, who knows. I haven't done one of these gearbox in many years now. They're a rock solid old tractor. You hardly ever need to look in here. Right, so I'll take the bolts out of the way, or take this plate out of the way, a bit more like it. Now we have a planetary reduction unit here. We have a thrust washer each side. There should be one in here. Here it is. And they have little lock tabs on them, and the little lock tabs hold them in place. These wear. This has got a slight bit of scoring there, but it's not too bad. Yeah, a little bit of scoring, but we look for hardness. That's or case hardening that's going on the gears. But we'll probably pop that apart and show you. Now this fella here might need a little dowel there, I think. Another one up the top here. That's your ring gear. The dowels will tell us which way to go back on again. The back plate, that looks good. And there's one shim there. Alright, that's looking good. Right, that's the back end. We might turn it all around and show you the front. Well, look at this. We've turned it all around. I've turned the stand and all that, and the plastic pot that I was putting everything in so faithfully fell on the ground and tipped everything out. But anyway. Okay, first up, there's a couple of springs here that hold the throw-out bearing and the throw-out carrier in. The throw-out bearing is replaceable. It presses out of this carrier. Now the throw-out fork, quite a bit of wear here, but we could radius that. Now this is hooked to the clutch pedal. So there's the clutch pedal. When you push the clutch pedal down, that pushes this throw-out bearing forward, and those springs I took off first. When you lift the pedal, that allows it to come back. So you engage your clutch and you disengage. Now, one thing I probably should point out here is the amount of travel for here is only around 10-12 millimetres. It's not much, about half an inch maybe. That's okay. That's all it needs. People think, yeah, your clutch, when we do the clutch up, you've got to have a lot of free play and all that. Well, yeah, you just don't. Now, we have the same setup here. I don't think I'm in your way. The same setup here with the lock wire. Get this one out of there. Now the clutch shaft is in two pieces, so we just undo these little bits here, these two set screws once more, same as with the selector. Oh boy, that is tight. This one's loose. No, not yet. Okay, what we might do is just undo this one. We'll find a spot where there's no load on it. The thing that gets overlooked on these gearboxes is sometimes these rust out or actually fall out, and yeah, people get a lot of oil in their bell housing here. So now, that's out. That's giving me an opportunity to remove the clutch pedal. And here's the shaft that was sticking in there before, and the bolt was locating it in there like that. So one out of the way. That should give me an opportunity to come in on a different angle there. These little these little springs for the throw-out bearings. They can come out and sit for the moment. And someone with a big fist's been given that some, so we'll see if we can get a better run on that. This outside shaft can either go out or in. So I'll have to deal with that. Now this shaft here, that's on the brake pedals, and you can see the wear in the bushes there. So we'll have to deal with that. What I might try and do first though, is we'll undo this top shaft, or the top bearing support housing. Well, we will if I put the right size socket on this thing. Bloody hard to get good help. All the work I've done this weekend pulling tractors apart, I'll have a big weekend in parts, just making sure we're organised. Okay, now don't go hitting this housing. We need this housing here nice and smooth for the throw-out bearing to run on. Bring that round a little bit, I think. Now, this is where people get and they say, hey, I bought that seal off you, I can't get that front housing off. You won't. Now, this seal, this housing here, it has a bearing in it to help support this shaft. And around that, there's a cast iron support. So without dropping the bottom shaft out of the way, you're never going to do it. So we have a tin plate here. So on a lot of tractors, on the Fergies, you have to pull the front and the rear housings to, or yeah, you've got to actually pull the gearbox out and sit it somewhere to do the seals. Well, it's a dirty job in the bell housing. I suppose we could wash it all out before we start, but then I think, well, you're just filling everything up with water. Right, so there's our tin plate, a bit of muck in there. Now we need to release this shaft, let it go back so the whole thing can come down a little bit. Now you'll see jacking bolts here, one each side. If you take a couple of these longer bolts, put in there, you can see that's starting to come forward on its own now. It's quite loose in the housing. You can see a couple of punch marks on there, I think. So we're going to undo this circlip and let this shaft here pop back. Circlip is off and halfway to China. There it is, don't panic. And I have a little brass punch. The washer that backs up the circlip. And of course you can't do that in the tractor. Well, you can gain a little bit in the tractor, I'll probably tell you a fib there. Here's our bearing support housing. And this gear here, that goes up and meshes with the gear on the top here. And he's the one that gives us all the trouble. So I'll see if I can there we go. So he's now down out of the way. And that now allows us to pull this housing here. So what was happening before was this gear here was sitting up in the way in this groove here, so you had no hope at all of getting that off. Now you heard something fall on the floor. That was the bottom shaft. Now the bottom shaft of the gearbox, it comes right through, and the PDO drive gear here sits on it, and the next gear in, so your PDO drive gear, it sits on that, then that's the same shaft that sits up through the middle. Can you see the hole there? I'll see if I can turn that gearbox a little. Otherwise, ain't it? Yeah, it comes right through the centre here. Then the back of this shaft here, that drives your hydraulic pump. If you remember the cam on your hydraulic pump, I'll just go and get that while it's in pieces. Right, it's over here. So this is our hydraulic pump shaft, and this is where we pull the circlip out on the hydraulic pump, and this bloke here, he drives there. So whatever your engine is turning, this shaft's turning, because this gear, the big gear on the shaft here, which is this one here, it's driving all the time your engine's running. So that just gives us live hydraulics. So I think I've explained that right. I'm just running through my head. So the centre shaft here, can you see that? Yeah. The centre shaft drives the gears. This fella here drives the pump. So you can actually change gears and all that sort of thing with your PDO still turning, and it all still works well. We'll pop this apart shortly. Usually it's just a matter of trying to keep things in the frame. Yeah. Normally it's just a case of releasing that circlip and bump him on a bit of wood. And that's just bumping him down like that on a bit of wood. So there's our main shaft. That's our main drive shaft. That goes back, drives this gear. Drives this gear here, which in turn drives all your gears. You know, well, it does, drives all your gears. And this bloke here, there's a seal in there. And this fella here, he does your PDO. Little circlip holding him in yet. But anyway, we'll get to that. So for the moment, I should probably get some snap ring pliers. There's a snap ring here and a snap ring on that top shaft. We'll get some snap ring pliers and we'll pop them out while we can. Or while you can see what I'm doing anyway. I'll bring this all up just a little bit. We're chasing it a bit, aren't we, today? Well, sorry about that, getting dizzy. Right, snap ring pliers. There's one on the top shaft here. Oh, there's load on that. But this main one's right to go. Now that front gear there, that should probably just slide up over the front now. That's it. And this top one, I'm going to bump that forward just a little. just to take the stress off that snap ring. So I'll have a glass punch here. We're just going to take the see if that's enough just to take the strain of it all. I have to try and just find it neutral. That puts the snap ring at the top here for me. Oh, that's tight. That gives the bearing a bit of a bump. Something longer, Lance. Hopefully that's taken a bit of load off it. That's it. Away she goes. There's our snap ring. Alright, we'll go around the other end. Right, we've done the ballet again, the gearbox ballet, got him round the other way. Now this bottom end here, that's where the high-low planetary sat. I'll just try and bring it down there a little bit further. That's where the planetary was. I've still got the brake pedals tied up. Now, I have a piece of wood down on the ground here because with the gearbox sitting horizontal you can just bump this out gently, but I'm afraid by bumping it down it might get away on me. So right, now we need to drive this bearing. Can you see that bearing? There's a bearing just in here. Perhaps if I go right over it might give you a better look. Now that snap ring I took off, that was holding it all in place, so I'll get my shaft, my bit of wood down under here a bit better. What I need to do is bring a big punch down here and knock this shaft through, and we'll catch it on a piece of wood down the bottom there. Now, I've gone and got my big punch that I didn't have here. So that's our bearing off. You can see it's shielded one side, not the other. Now if I come underneath here I might be able to support all this. And once again I'll put everything straight back on the shafts. Stops you thinking so much later. If you can line them up. Oh, there we go. Now notice the shaft at the back here, that's a different spline than the front, so you can't knock that forward. This fella comes down over the top there like that. And that's how we store that to work on. Now we have a little reverse idler shaft here and a lay shaft here. So with the lay shaft, I think it has to go forward from memory because of the size of the splines and all, but we'll roll the gearbox around so you can see a bit more. Now you just can't see anything. Okay, this is the lay shaft. Now there's a needle bearing in there. You can see all my needles are falling apart. Once more, there's a snap ring to hold things in place. Make sure you got glasses on when you're playing with these snap rings. These they go off like a bloody cracker when they go. Just open them enough to do the job. Over into the pot with you, into the pot and straight back out again. Okay, now. We should be able to pop that bearing out so you can see what's going on. There's a circlip, of course, just to stop it moving when we don't want it to. Now we'll roll him over again for you. How's that? Yep, you can see, I believe. Then the shaft has to come forward. We can pull the gears out. Right out of the way with these ones. Yeah, and that just pushes out through the front bearing hole where you got the lay shaft out before. Now, we have a couple of rough edges here from first gear, I believe. That goes back on like that. This bloke goes back on like that. Now we have the two curved edges towards each other because the gear slides back and forth in there. Look, the bearings all feel really good, except for this one. It looks really bad. Okay, all that's left now is our little reverse idler, and we have the housing empty. Now, one thing I didn't point out before is up the top here. Yep, you can just see it on the top of your screen. This is your start switch. Now, boy, it's your safety start switch. Now it goes through onto your selector for your low, start, high, and it pushes on the end of the selector. I'll get a proper socket and do that shortly. Now, for the reverse eye, the gear, Yeah, you can just see it, this fella here. It's got a lock tab on it, so we have to give him a bump away. Now use a 9/16 spanner on here. And that holds a little lock tab that holds this shaft in place. There's a little groove on the shaft that sits in. Now by hand we can support this gear and pull it out. Now we have a spacer, a thrust, a little washer, a heap of needle bearings. That looks lovely. Now these needle bearings, we'll just put all them into one spot just for the moment. And I'll drop a magnet down in them, just so they don't want to go anywhere. So if we roll that over now, we have empty housings apart from the brake shaft here. Now, the brake shaft, it's got a lot of movement in it. I might bring the camera just around a little bit. Now on the brake shaft, I'll undo my little wire that was holding it all in place. Now this outer one does your right hand brake. It's held on with a little wire clip. Now the wire clip has a joiner just around the back here. There it is there. Now to get it to come far enough, we need to undo the splines here and undo on the other side. So we need 11/16 spanners for that. Now on this side over here, the other side, it has a lever going out as well. It was actually quite loose. Now if we give that a little tap round the other side there, and maybe I'll pop it this way a little bit. And that gives us room to pop that clip off. And that's actually a wire. Then we have a retaining washer. There's a little lip to hold the wire in. We have a bush in there, what's left of it, not much chop. the hole's round, that's one thing I suppose. Now this shaft here, I don't need to undo that on this side because I've undone it on the other side. Now on the other side there's a lever and it can, I'll just see if I can show you that without us upsetting the apple cart too much. There it is there. There's the other side of the brake lever. So all I do here is you have to pop this lever off out of the way because it has a keyway to hold it in. So if we actually go bumping it in, see, we'll only go so far. The key in here will stop it from going any further. So on my little punch here, there's the lever off. Can only go back in one place because it has a key. Now this key here, that's what's stopping that whole shaft going through. So if we get our side cutters, and do a bit of levering here. There's the key. Now if we go back around the other way once more, you can see the shaft coming out through here. Easy as that. You don't have to have the tractor split to do anything to this brake shaft. You can pop it off one side and just slide it through. So, now we have empty housing. It's time to order parts, give everything a bath and start washing parts up. Once we wash parts up, that gives us an opportunity to see what we're going to need. All my spanners are all dropping off the edge. It gives us a chance to see what we need and evaluate what has to be replaced. So at this stage it's probably just bearings and seals, but yeah, we'll just see how we go.